Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Align Life, Brain-Based Health Solutions, Chiro HD, Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, German College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, the IFCO, and 100% Chiropractic. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 570 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we have the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Tiffany Johnson. And if you want to hear a story of how to have it all and how to create generational health, stay tuned. All right, welcome back, everyone. It's another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today I have Tiffany Johnson coming on. There's a whole lot about her I don't know, but one thing I do know is that she likes to talk about the truth of chiropractic. So I'm excited about that. And before we jump into Dr. Tiffany Johnson's story of why she got into this beautiful profession, I have to let everyone know the big why. Why do we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle? Well, freedom of speech. Oh boy. We were just talking about this and how important it is for us to have a consistent messaging scope around chiropractic. Mm-hmm. And I know that what you really love to do is make healthy homes, because we've talked about that. And it starts with one person at a time. And one person can be the catalyst to change a whole family and the whole dynamic of a family. So we do really support and believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. They're not the same things, but people should have sovereignty of their decision-making for how they take care of their families. And I'm one to say that chiropractic is a great lifestyle, and it should be for people, whether they're feeling great or if they're feeling some type of concern with their health. I think it's all walks of life need it. It's not a pain. It's not a headache. It's not a low back. It's a vitality of life profession. Mm-hmm. And it's a nervous system profession. So people that listen to this, I just want them to get these first 2 minutes and know that they're listening to the real deal when it comes to chiropractic knowledge, because we do that here. And after 570 episodes, we're creating a depository of these messages that anybody can go back to and listen to the timeline for 6 years of content and say, wow, that's what sacred trust means. So if you don't know what the sacred trust is, go look for BJ Palmer's last words and find out what BJ Palmer's sacred trust is. And you'll know more about chiropractic than you previously did. And then, philosophically rounding out the intro, we also support subluxation-based chiropractic. We believe that everybody deserves to get checked, detected, and corrected with a chiropractic adjustment if they present with vertebral subluxation. And by doing so, we believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence. And that is when man or woman, the physical gets adjusted, the physical part of them connects to the spiritual part of them. And I know that that's your jam. So there's a lot of cool things that we're going to connect on today, but we believe that when someone gets adjusted, it connects the physical to the spiritual, and that's innate intelligence and universal intelligence. So with that, that's our intro, and this is episode 570, and this is Tiffany Johnson. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Spirit fingers. That's what that looked like.
So there's a lot in the intro to unpack, and we don't necessarily have to do that, but I like to do that because people don't understand chiropractic philosophy. They don't know what chiropractic philosophy is. They don't know the lexicon of chiropractic. They don't know the history of chiropractic. And then they meet you and they're like, well, she's a chiropractor. Well, all right. Well, 127 years in the making, we have you today.
Thanks for your work you do before we start. I really appreciate it. I think I can speak for a lot of people that you are a warrior on the road in front of us a lot of times. So I really appreciate the work you're doing.
Well, thank you. It's a labor of love. And like we were talking, if you do something that you love, you never work a day in your life. So I think it's kind of cliche. It's kind of like tongue in cheek, but it is true. And I'm sure you feel the same way after being in practice for 18 years and learning how to have the duality. That was one of the main things I want to talk to you about today, is the
Yeah.
duality of family and other types of family, and how you create those types of like those dualities of world for you and how they can coincide with each other. I
Hmm.
think that that's a really important topic for people to understand, because they're like, I am the chiropractor. I go to work and I crush subluxation.
Yeah.
And then they come home and their identity doesn't know how to relate to it. And they don't know how to relate to like the patients the next day if they had a bad day at home. And they don't know if they had a bad day at home, how that relates to, vice versa. If they've had a bad day at practice, how do you bring that home? And how do you
Hmm.
create like a duality of who am I here and who am I here?
Yep.
Maybe you could speak about that a little bit before we get
Oh
it.
God. Could I speak about this? Oh, when we get to the point that we lead on it, we have made a whole shit ton of mistakes around it, right? Like we've learned how to master this by falling flat on our face. And I think this is one of the pieces. I had two babies in chiropractic school. And so I had hardly ever finished a thing in my life, truly. I was on bed rest in chiro school first. I had my tonsils out. T4, withdrew then, split T5. I'm pretty sure no one ever freaking thought I was going to finish, first of all. And I did. And I remember the moment of like, this is the first time that I have done something that was a core value that I didn't even really know was a core value, like finishing something that I was meant to deliver to the world. That's what I knew chiropractic was going to be for me. I didn't know how it was all going to shake out. So having two babies in chiropractic school was its own challenge just to finish, right? Like what we had as a marriage needed to be honed and honed and honed and honed. And so I move into this Fargo, North Dakota place. I'm from North Dakota, but not from Fargo. Didn't know anybody. And I was the like fake it till you make it egomaniacal chiropractor in a very relatable, soft way. And I debunked most all things like you shouldn't be friends with your patients. You shouldn't adjust your family. Like everything. I'm like, what the hell's the point if my practice doesn't feel like my family? I just said in a mastermind call this week, I said, I want every space that I create to be like a living room. And when I say a living room, I don't mean like casual bullshit, superficial talk. I mean, like, let's go deep. And I'm going to know if I'm your person and if you're my person. And so that's how I built my practice. But from day one was I built my identity in my practice. And I'm very clear about the gift that chiropractic gave me, honestly, was number one, who is Tiff underneath all of it? And number two, what I get to see on that table that happens when the physical marries the spiritual is magic. And I can't describe that to people who haven't experienced it, right? It's that experiential magic that just happens. And when you know, and when you see, you see.
Nervous system upgrade.
Nervous system upgrade. Absolutely. And so when we lean into what that looks like and we create our identity, I went all into my practice. And I remember conversations with Craig. Craig's like, would you treat your patients like this? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't. And so now we start to dance because so many people will say when love increases in this frequency, money and business decreases. And I'm like, no, there's no freaking way. Like that can't be what our life experience is meant to be. So when business and wealth and abundance increases, then your love relationships are supposed to go to heck. No, I'm not here for it. And so I just started that internal process, like that personal development within myself to be like, I know I can do all of this. It's going to be hard as hell. But I recognized how to compartmentalize like a waffle. When things weren't going good at home, I needed to be all in at work. And when things weren't going good at work, I needed to be all in at home. And that segregation, that one from work to home was the hardest because our safest space is usually at home. And so how I was as a wife and as a mom, I can say for many years, I'm not that proud of. And I think that's also my leverage point of I remember how that feels. I know. I'm known in my community. People know Tiff from Healing Touch. Like I've been the brand the whole time, you know? And so then you go home and you're like, ooh, I maybe don't see what my patients see in me. That's the pivotal moment. Like, who do you want to be when you look back at your life? Who do you want to be? And how proud of you are you in every single area of your life?
So how were you before you became a chiropractor? And why did you choose chiropractic?
I chose chiropractic to be a sports chiropractor. I started getting adjusted when I was an 8th grader for high school and college sports. So it was all mechanical. Everything was
Performance-based adjustment.
performance-based adjustments, right? So I was trying to figure out what I was going to do when I grew up, and I wanted to be a psychologist because mindset is my jam, right? Like performance is my jam. And she's like, Tiff, you're really good with people. You're really good with kids. I think you should go this route. So when I got to chiropractic school, I was pregnant. I was on bed rest for the last 4 months of my pregnancy. And that's actually, I think Callan, she opened my eyes to pediatric and prenatal chiropractic in the way that I wanted to do it. And that totally changed everything. How I was back then, I was a follower, I was a drinker, I was a smoker. I was a fun girl. And poof, all of a sudden I had purpose and everything changed.
Hmm. Where did you decide that chiropractic school was right for you? Where'd you go?
I went to Northwestern because it was the closest to home. I looked nowhere else.
Do you think that that's a problem with chiropractors, is they try to stay close to home rather than going out and branching out and finding a Sherman or a Life West?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Yep. And I see that. I see this. So my kids are 19 and 22 right now. I see this not only in doctorate school, but like college. Kids don't want to leave anywhere.
Comfort.
They want to stay home.
Mm-hmm. So growing your practice, Healing Touch, what did you find over your 18 years as things that you really enjoyed to connect with your community and grow your practice, and things that you did that you're like, I don't ever want to touch that again?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Google was hardly a thing when I started. I feel really old to say that, but I did a ton of direct mail. I did the old school knock on doors, knock on business doors, networking groups. I did screenings. I did all of the hard stuff. I say hard stuff because the people that come out of school now are like, no way. Let me invest in Facebook ads. I'm not saying Facebook ads are bad, but it's because they don't want to be seen, right? Let me invest in this. Let me invest in this. And so that is what worked. And now I kind of hit my capacity in like year 2 or year 3 for what I could handle on my own. And so I feel like I spent, 15 years kind of hanging around 220 to 280 forever, because like you see 2 or 3 new patients a week. I convert just about everybody and retain just about everybody. So like the back door isn't open. I'm like, well, I can only get to a certain limit. So I don't even know what would work now. I just know my people work for me.
There's an old saying of when you put a pumpkin in a jug, the pumpkin grows to the shape of the jug.
100%.
And I just wanted to go back on something you mentioned, is about the marketing thing. And, before Google, like I'm before Google too. I mean, when I was in college, it's funny, but I saw the word Google and I'm like, what the hell is a goggle? Like,
Right.
I'm like, what is this? And now it's like telling us how to get to the gas station. Now it's telling us how far it is to walk to get a breakfast burrito. Now it's telling us everything.
Evolution.
So goggle is Google. And Facebook, I believe, when you're talking about going and knocking doors, I have a lot of questions on that. So let's circle back to that. But
Yeah.
knocking on doors, doing spinal screenings, doing mailers, do those things still work?
If I were starting my business right now, I would be doing things the old school way because I believe there's a lot of noise in the other places. Now, can you build a following on social media? For sure. Can you tell your story? For sure. There's a lot of noise there. And so I would, which is what I did in the beginning. I was a huge part of our community. I love sports. So like I was involved. I donated time and energy and money to those places that I gave a shit about. And I still do because not for new patients, not for building my practice, but it's like things that I really care about.
Community.
Community. What I feel like that's what we're missing.
I want to go back to this is the consumer that comes from Facebook. Like, I'm glad that you answered that. Yes, I would go back to old school methods, but the community of chiropractors that listen to our show a lot are like young DCs. The young DC market loves our show. Students love our show. So I get a lot of feedback, and I'll just tell everybody like straight off, like Facebook creates a different customer. It creates a very transient culture. It wants you to fix them because the ad told them that you're going to fix them. So there's relational style practice build. And I love old school marketing. Like I've done over 700 spinal screenings. So if somebody wants new patients, I can show you the recipe or I can come do it for you. But when it comes to door knocking, I'm really curious, like what method did you do? Who taught you how to do that? And what does that look like for somebody that's like in a funk and they're like, darn it, I need to go do something. I don't want to do screenings. I don't have money for Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Because Lord knows that those things are 4 times as expensive as they were like 4 months ago. So going out there into the community and saying, hi, I'm Dr. Tiffany Johnson. I'm the chiropractor in town. Here, have some cookies, or what do you do?
Yep. That's what I do. And I think when we make it about us is what gets in the way. Like your personal power needs to be a whole lot stronger than any circumstantial power of discomfort. And so what I learned in my experience was I can put on my like armor. I can figure out, I say like fake it till you make it until that becomes like doesn't work anymore. But if you can identify what you're here to do in the world and why you're here to serve, which is not for money, it's not for recognition, it isn't for notoriety, isn't to be freaking famous. It's actually for serving at a much deeper core level of who you are. So when you enter that place, that is the energy that you need to come from. I mean, you can smell freaking desperation from a mile away. I don't care if it's a Facebook ad or a social post or a handshake meeting you face to face. Like that's ego, like radiating out of your freaking pores. Like figure out what you're meant to bring to the world and go do it and get uncomfortable so you know how to handle it. And then I remember the moments, the hard conversations I have in practice. I mean, over all the years, a lot of my interactions with people in my practice were built from all the other hard stuff that I did. All the screenings, all the face-to-face, the door knocking. And of course, will people like shove the door in your face? Well, yeah, but like whatever, that's their karma. I mean, who cares?
I mean, guys will walk by today and try to sell me solar and I won't answer the door just because I don't feel like having the conversation. So I look at it from both sides. You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Align Life, Brain-Based Health Solutions, Chiro HD, Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, German College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, the IFCO, and 100% Chiropractic. Let's hustle.
And I do too. But like, let's just say you get to talk to 1 out of 10 people. One 1 out of 10 people, think of all the things you learned every single time you walked up to the stairs, you had to knock on the door, you wanted to run away. Like, this is personal power. This is standing in your power and being able to communicate when you're scared as heck to somebody who might slam the door in your face. Or this person might be exactly the angel that you needed and that they needed, right? Like, how can we start to calibrate to a different energy of, hey, maybe this is exactly what they've been looking for. And for me, being scared is not going to help humanity.
Can I tell a quick personal story?
Yeah.
So I'm up in Anchorage, Alaska, and this is back in 2017. And I think like I'm the coolest thing in the world because I've done so many screening events and scheduled so many patients. But I don't get to bond with that patient after they show up because I'm scheduling them in for an
Right.
office I don't work in. So I'm out there this year, 2023, and this guy comes up and said, "Hey man, I met you the summer of 2017." And I was like, "Dude, you're like an angel coming back to me and telling me that the work that I did worked." And he's like, "Dude, you got me in to see this doc down in Anchorage, and I've been seeing him ever since then, and my quality of life has like just changed." And I know that's a big turning spot for us today because we wanted to talk about when you change one person in that family,
Yeah.
like you change the whole family future and the whole family dynamic and how people show up and if they're going to be afraid to knock on a door or not. Like you change people's enthusiasms to thrive. You change people's enthusiasms to show up and to, like you say, have it all and to go all in. Like you change people's enthusiasms to be that.
Yep.
And this guy comes up to me, and I just talked at the Pennsylvania Chiropractic Association event last month, and my opener was this guy. And it goes back to that saying of BJ Palmer: you never know how far reaching something you may say or do today will have the impact on 1 million of lives tomorrow. And that's really the essence of chiropractic. And this guy comes up and he introduces himself to me, and he's like, "I remember you." And he's like, "You got me down to this office and it changed my life." And I think that that's the part that we have to come back home to. Whether, like you said in the opener, if home life is solid and square, if practice life is solid and square, what do you do it for? Well, it's to help more people. And if it's to help more people, then we have to figure out how to curate that ego inside of us that tells us that somebody's right or somebody's wrong, or we're not doing enough, or this has got me down, or the billing system's messed up, or the EHR is not doing what it's supposed to, or my table needs fixed, or gosh, why aren't the Facebook ads working?
Yeah.
You know, whatever it might be, it gets us to this position. And talk about that for me for a moment. Like, getting the one person influenced with chiropractic as a lifestyle and how that transitions to making better futures and better families.
Yeah. And that I would especially say this as a mom. Obviously I'm a mom, but working with moms, I can see the amount of change that happens in the marriage because I see it from a different perspective. So she can complain about her marriage and about her husband, and I can give a different perspective on like, well, have you thought about that he feels like this? And she's like, no, never. Have you thought about that this energy between you is this, or what are you bringing to the table? And so indirectly, because of the deep work that I do, I mean, really connecting the physical to the spiritual. I'm a very intuitive chiropractor. I see energy, I read energy, the body talks to me. I don't touch joints. Like, I do it differently. And that's when we started talking, we talked about like, how can we allow people to step out of a box of authenticity is a word that's really overused and I don't necessarily love it, but here is it. I feel like it is probably the best definition of you identifying what that is for you is your responsibility, and leading your practice in that way, leading your life in that way, in a congruent way, because the work that you're going to do with the one person in a family oozes out of you. Like, it oozes out of me when things aren't good at home. Like, even though I can compartmentalize, like, I'm not coming from like all in energy in a way that could move them. But one person can change any relationship. One person can change any family. One person can change any love relationship. One person can change your relationship with money, for your family, to raise your kids, of health. Like, what do your kids do when they watched you get sick, when they watched you have a headache? Like, that's generational trauma, in my opinion, because the only thing you're teaching them is that you run for the medicine cabinet. So what happens when you can teach a mom that makes a lot of the health decisions in the family, that doesn't get to be the only way you lead your family and lead your kids, you have absolutely forever changed the course of their kids and then their kids. So now you teach a kid how to actually feel their body, because like the only thing they know is normal. And you've led a mom on how to see your kid differently, because you aren't miserable, or you aren't medicated, or you aren't unheard in your relationship, or misunderstood at your work, right? Like, everything changes by working with one person. Everything.
I think there's a lot of takeaways for that for people. I was joking with you off camera, but like, if the people that stressed us out the most and like gave us the most grief in the world, whoever that might be, you can assign a name, you can assign a family member, but whoever that might be, encourage them to try chiropractic, because by them changing, it would make a profound impact on you. And that's a transfer of energy that you can't put a dollar amount on,
Yep.
but maybe you were the reason that that person decided to be nicer to everybody. Maybe that person getting under chiropractic care gave them the opportunity to have a better quality of life, where they didn't look at the glass half empty.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's really the energetic resonance of what we're discussing here, is when you make a profound impact on somebody, you make them start to feel better.
Yeah.
Everybody starts to heal around them too. And the kids
Everyone.
don't grow up in a family where their early memories are mom couldn't do stuff because she had migraines, or dad couldn't do stuff because he had sciatica. And gosh, it would make people a lot nicer, and they probably use less smoking and drinking and
Yep.
things like that if their bodies were actually feeling good and they didn't need to sedate themselves and
Yep.
and drift and feel better and think that that's going to make their life better somehow. So I really, 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 really love the spiritual component of the adjustment
Mm.
and how you can help transition somebody's course of life. And one of the things you say in here, weave the human and the soul as one. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that if you can weave the human and the soul as one, that can change the outlook of so many people. And I know we started out today where I was like, look, if we can just make it so important that your kids have chiropractic,
Yeah.
like, who cares what we feel about our ego today? Who
Yeah.
cares about how many doors we have to knock, or how many cold calls we have to make, or how many screens we have to do, or how many chamber events we have to show up to, or how many young professional network groups we have to go assign ourselves to, how many street festivals we need to do, how many. Well, if your kids don't get chiropractic, it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And I think that if we get some takeaway today, it's how can we balance the influence of a chiropractor to be somebody that can be both somebody special in their personal life,
Mm.
but somebody also special in their world as being the adjuster. And when you can make that confluence and you can bring those together, now you actually have a method that's sustainable. And I can't tell you how many times I've been around these rooms full of chiropractors and they have great practices, but they don't have a good, stable home life,
Yeah.
or they don't have a practice, and the debt of chiropractic makes their home life struggle.
Yeah.
And getting into a successful method of having a practice that you're really proud of and sharing that with your partner or your home life is something else to really kind of like take a deep dive on. So I really believe that chiropractors need coaches. I believe that they need confidants. I believe that they should get adjusted regularly. They should eat their own cooking. They should make
Yep.
sure that they're on care plans if they're not feeling hot. They should also check in with their home life, and how does home life balance out with work life. And I think you've mentioned a lot of great things today on chiropractors don't have to live in the box.
Mm-hmm.
Change one person in the family, change the whole life of a whole community. I mean, it's BJ Palmer's big idea.
Yeah. And I maybe didn't realize it up until the last 3 to 5 years of how out of balance we chiropractors. So I've been sober for 2.5 years, and it absolutely changed every single thing in my life. To be able to see people differently. And I think that's when I really started to see the pain in chiropractors differently, of where home was actually broken, and whether that was affecting your practice or your success in your practice was halted because you had no more energy to give. I think of Craig being, so, I mean, we've been married 23 years. But he was always, and I led in the energy of like, this is my purpose. I didn't really even know it was, but like the things I saw from the table, the people that said like, you are the first person who believed that something could change in my body, or you're the first doctor that said, I don't have anxiety. You're the first expert that said, I need to be responsible and step up in order to change this. And like, there's a pivotal moment in their life that happens when they get on the table, and they like, we become partners. And Craig was always the guy that said, you go do that because you are meant to lead. And so I know I led in that energy with him, like to know that he needed to allow me to go there. But that push and pull of what he allowed me to see in myself, and what I then was able to give to so many thousands of people, has changed our home. It has absolutely changed our home, so that now, like, that's like wildfire. Like, that's just a magnet. This is what Tiff does. All he says is, I don't know what she does. She does things a whole lot different than everyone else. Like owning that, the magic that really happens when you have the power to change one person, just one person. And I would, like, as you were talking, like, when I think about us as chiropractors and the gift that we're given, that we have the ability through one person to change so much in that person's life. And sometimes we don't think we deserve it, or we might not be confident enough, or our relationship doesn't support it. Makes me really sad. I mean, I remember being in those places of, I don't know if I can continue to do this. The level of people talking about being burnt out, like the level of people talking about the amount of boundaries they need to set in their own life. I'm like, what is happening? We are energetically, we are off base. And I think when you can get your home in order in every single way, and you aren't moving through separate identities and separate doors and separate cloaks of armor that you have to put on in order to have a relationship with different people, and you can actually start to work on your truth. And like you said, have a confidant that says, go, like you need to go, instead of deal with all the bullshit that everyone else is talking about. Like, we don't even know what the next mountain is. And different topic, but the same. A lot of the people talking about spirituality, I say that in quotes, we are spending so much time trying to find out what we're supposed to be in our life and in our practice, instead of having the courage to be it and knowing that there's a path already. Like, we were given the path. Why do we need to fuck with so many things to try to figure out where the path is, when We were given it. Like we have it. Now we need to figure out how to own it. And we need to figure out how to own our own personal power so it's not circumstantial, so we don't get tied up in the noise, and know that today this is what my heart says that is supposed to happen, and start to lead in a higher resonance of truth. When we first started, like, wait, the first thing you said is this is all about resonance of truth. I don't know if you remember saying that, but that's chiropractic.
Yeah, it's a special thing we do over here at Chiro Hustle. We love what we do, and it shows in the people we host and how they feel free to have space with us. You know, I always feel really proud of it, like you do when you connect with your patients or your partner, because I want to create something that your patients can hear and they'll be proud of. I want something that your friends that you went to school with, when they hear you speak about your love and passion for your career, they're gonna feel fired up because you showed up as your best.
Mm.
You know, like
Yeah.
the patients, new patients that are gonna listen to you talk about why you love what you do, and they're gonna resonate with you, and they're gonna say, "Wow, I want to go to Healing Touch Chiropractic because she sounds awesome."
Yep.
And I want to be with somebody that sees the world like that. And I want to be that person that James was talking about that's a pain in everybody's ass, that I can have the confidence now to go show up and share with somebody that I think I'm a pain in everyone's ass. Like, there's going to be some boundaries that we break and some spiritual breakthroughs we have with people because of this show. So I just honor and thank you and respect you for spending some time away from your family and away from taking care of all the people that you take care of. Um, I know we're almost at the edge of our time, but is there anything I didn't ask you that you were hoping I would have asked you that we could have talked about today?
Ooh, wide open question, Jim.
I leave the portal open.
It is our responsibility to know and show up in the way that serves the world, in the way that resonates with our highest truth. And when we don't know that, we need to find somebody who can help you identify that. I do know that so many more people, like so many chiropractors, don't have in their practice what I have and what I've created. I get that. But through the eyes of the beholder, you can change whatever the hell you want to change. It's just like a commitment to changing the belief codes that you once thought were real. And that's the box. Like, I think as a license holder, an intelligent person, in the highest frequency of our mind, we are unstoppable. But in the lowest frequency of our mind, we forget that soul has already created a path, that we're trying to figure it out. It's not working. What do we need to do? We need to push harder. We need to hustle. And that's when burnout happens. The burnout happens when the mind isn't allowed to be brilliant, and the mind doesn't allow the soul to push us. When we find both of those, that's personal conviction. And then the sky is, as one of my mentors says, the sky isn't even the limit. Like, truly, the sky isn't even the limit at that place. Because when you have personal conviction, separate from anything circumstantial, what anyone says, the environment, all the bullshit excuses that we come up with, you're fucking unstoppable.
If people want to connect with you or learn more about you or go knock on doors with you, where should they reach out to you?
Oh, you can email me at drtiffany@htchiro.com. Of course, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, Tiffany Johnson. Website is htchiro.com. So
HT Chiro. All right. Thanks for being with us today. It's a really great episode.
You're welcome. Thanks for your work.
You know, it's a divine place to sit. You know, being the chiropractic oracle, you see it all, you hear it all, you can converse it all. And that's what Chiro Hustle is. And that's what we love about this platform is we can tell everyone's story. And everybody gets acknowledged, everyone gets seen, everyone gets heard. And it's for a greater cause, is to make sure that people understand what this profession does, how it can help them, and who it's for. And then they can come in and see what you do, how you can help them, and how they can stick around and tell their friends about it.
Absolutely.
Because I think that that's what it comes down to, is tell the story, treat people right. They tell more people, and it's the greatest chiropractic marketing you can do.
100%.
Just take care of more people. So Dr. Tiffany at htchiro.com. htchiro.com is the website, and that stands for Healing Touch Chiropractic. 18 years into this beautiful profession, and thanks for being our guest today.
Thank you. Much love.
Oh, thanks. With that being in our closing, then I'll just tell everybody, like I always do, you're just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye for now, Dr. Tiffany.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.